how can we get from this to this? From the very first skill we get on a shore to a 1,000,000 damage monster. Firebolt is an ability with extremely good damage scaling. But in order to make it work properly, we have to do some shenanigans. For example, to have a full screen coverage, we're using Sion's Temper. This support will allow us not to aim at a specific monster while we're clearing the maps. And at the same time, we still have an ability to focus our full DPS on a single target. But 8 additional projectiles is definitely not enough for a perfect clear. So I decided to use Trample Toe for the 30% overkill damage. Basically, you have to hit a single monster hard enough to explode the whole screen. And with 500% critical damage bonus and almost 70% critical chance, we're hitting like a truck. This is a very unusual build. For example, some best-in-slot items will only cost you a couple of exiles. Meanwhile, other items were so rare that I literally have to craft them myself to show you this build. Another crucial point for anyone planning to level up this character. Since Firebolt is a basic attack, the number of support gem slots is strictly tied to the skill level of your weapon. This value cannot be changed with Jeweler's Orbs. You initially start with 2 slots at skill level 1, then gain 3rd slot at skill level 10, next slot at skill level 16, and finally, the last slot will unlock at skill level 20. Therefore, the full potential of this build will not be available to you until level 90. So keep that thing in mind. Oh, and I almost forgot. Because Firebolt is a basic attack, it has no mana cost, so we can have all the benefits from life remnants with 0 downsides. Now let's talk about our skill gems. So Firebolt is the main ability. Basically, it will shoot a projectile to a target and explode on impact. Damage of both of them is the same on paper, but very different on a tooltip. We're using Sion's Temper to create additional projectiles, Zenith for that 30% more damage, Concentrated Area will drastically improve our explosion damage, and Elemental Focus will partially help with our Ignite problem. I will tell you more about it in a minute. Finally, Fire Mastery. It's not the best support damage-wise, but definitely the most convenient to use. Next, we have Blasphemy, socketed with Elemental Weakness to reduce resistances of nearby enemies, supported by Heightened Curse for more magnitude, and Fire Mastery. Next, we have Frostbomb. We're using it to inflict exposure. As you probably already know, Elemental Weakness and other sources of Elemental Penetration can only be lowered down to a 0. And if we want to push enemy resistances to a negative values, we have to use exposure. Frostbomb is one of the most comfortable ways to push enemy resistances well below 0, supported by potent exposure for increased effect, cooldown recovery, and magnified area. Finally, we have Life Remnants. This ability will allow us to constantly heal ourselves by collecting remnants on the ground. But the coolest part is that recovery gained with a remnant can overflow your maximum life values. So during the maps, we're constantly running with almost 4k HP and have no problem of taking hits from random monsters. To support this skill, we're using Harmonic Remnants and Remnant Potency. The last, but definitely not least, is Cannibalism, that will provide us with 3% life recovery on kill. Now let's talk about our gear. The most important thing for this build is weapon. We have to find the one with skill level 20. And since this build is considered off-meta, there is literally no options available on the market. So I was forced to craft this beast all by myself. If you want me to make a separate video about crafting of this weapon, just tell me in the comments below. Also, I have a question for you. What are the best in slot gloves for a mage build? Atziri's Acuity? Or maybe new super expensive 48k speed gloves? Nope, the best solution is not always the most expensive one. I've got slightly better corrupted version, but if you think about it, over 120% increased spell damage from a single gear slot is massive. It's like you have to spend 12 additional skill points in order to get the same result. So this one is absolute must-have. Another super cheap and best in slot gear for our build is Helmet. We're using Crown of the Victor for that +1 to all skill levels. As I already told you at the beginning of the video, Firebolt got extremely good damage scaling with extra levels. And since we don't have an opportunity to use Prism of Belief Diamond, because it simply not exists for a Firebolt skill, we're hunting for that extra levels from any possible sources. Another crucial part is boots. We're using Trample Toe for that 30% overkill damage. Basically, the single piece of gear will guarantee the full screen clear for our main skill. The armor we're using is Sacramental Robe, for that 45% faster start of energy shield recharge. This will help us to save some points on the passive tree, which means we can convert them into even more damage. We're looking for the base with highest possible energy shield values. Since we're using Blood Mage Ascendancy, we can get all the benefits from Chrisman power and gain additional life equal to energy shield on equipped armor. Other than that, our main priority is resistances. We're using Ingenuity Belt to gain more bonuses from our equipped rings. Speaking about rings, we're looking for cast speed, increased fire damage, tons of resistances, and life. Finally, we're using Fireflower Amulet. This is hands down the best option for any fire-based builds. +6 to all fire skills is absolutely insane. But it has a downside. It will reflect over 100 damage back to us for each time we're igniting our enemies. I was trying to fix this issue with Elemental Focus, but apparently most of our ignites actually comes from overkill damage. So we're constantly hitting ourselves and sometimes even igniting ourselves with this damage. Therefore, sustaining our energy shield values take absolutely no sense. It's like a free bonus. We will be glad to have it, but most of our survivability comes from multiple sources of life recovery, such as life remnants and cannibalism. Now let's talk about our passive skill tree. I will leave the link to Mobalytics in the description, and here I will try to cover the main aspects of the build. So basically, it's a pure crit build, and we're trying to get as much crit related nodes as possible. I want to mention only a couple of details. The main reason why your character can die is when you get stunned. And because we don't have much points invested into energy shield, there's literally no point to take such nodes as gain additional stun threshold equal to maximum energy shield. But I have a solution for this problem. You see, our character got pretty high base HP. Therefore, we can rely on standard, I would say more warrior based types of nodes. Like this very strong cluster over here. With only 3 points spent, you will be able to survive most encounters. Also, I decided to use Megalomaniac with Unbreaking for that additional stun and ailment threshold. Speaking about jewels, it will be a good idea to get from Nothing Diamond with Resonance. It will give you free access to this huge crit cluster, and you will be able to save tons of points in order to get there. The last jewel I've got looks something like this. It's like 50-50 defensive-offensive option. But you can choose the one that suits you the most. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this video, so don't forget to subscribe and definitely check this next one.